We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England, now abed, shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whiles any speaks that fought with us upon this day.
When Shakespeare wrote this 400 years ago, he had no idea that he would be writing about the same subject that House President Noah Clarke wrote when he said, "The house of Winston Churchill is a band of brothers who strive to be virtuous statesmen, dedicated to serving God and others." They were both talking about the same thing, this immortal idea of brotherhood. It is the idea that sparked, that shaped, that crafted, and sustains the house of Winston Churchill.
In the early spring of 2004, a small group of Kingsian men gathered together and decided to study the Bible. As their meetings persisted, they proved their dedication to both Christ and brotherhood. Led by future House President Chris Pascali, the men decided that they wanted to form a house, and they wanted the name of that house to be the House of Sir Winston Churchill. These early Churchillians continued on, and they proved that they wanted to form this house based on brotherhood and trust. And they lent the credibility to Churchill's claim now that, as another great story states, in the beginning was the Word. In the fall of 2004, the officially recognized House of Winston Churchill welcomed 4 new freshmen. The new attendees included Moses Sanchez, who went on to become a helmsman and a president in the House. It included our first faculty advisor, Dr. Harry Bleetler, and it included our first coach, Dean David Leedy. In 2005, Noah Clarke joined the House, and in the following year, he became the president. Over the course of his work, he gave us the House crest. In the House crest, we have a book, we have 3 crosses, a lion, as well as a silhouette of Winston Churchill. The Bible clearly stands for God's Word and the wisdom and discernment that we can gain from it. The 3 crosses stand for Christ's sacrifice on Calvary for all of us. And the lion, which contrary to popular belief, people think it stands for the king's mascot, but it stands for the Lion of England, which was Winston Churchill, as well as the Lion of Judah, which stands for Christ. Both of these have in common nothing more than they give blood, toil, tears, and sweat. And finally, the silhouette of Winston Churchill stands for justice, and the cigar hanging from his lips stands for cigar.
It was that same year, 2006 through 2007, that many of the Churchillian traditions that we hold so dear were established. It all started when our current House advisor, Dr. Dorian Lockett, lent us, an irresponsible group of, Churchillians, a couple of DVDs called the Band of Brothers series. It was a few war movies that we stayed up until 2 a.m. watching. After that, we decided that it would be an annual tradition to keep doing so. Second, the House provided its members with bow ties, blue with white polka dots, the same exact model that Winston Churchill wore during World War II, and probably the reason that several of our graduates are happily married. As the face of Winston Churchill changed, the face of its members began to change as well. On an early November morning, every Churchillian found himself in front of a mirror. There were bags under his eyes from staying up too late watching those movies. Around his neck was the ribbon that defeated the Nazis. And he began to lather up for a shave. But before the first whisker was cut by the first razor, the voice of Winston Churchill was heard in his head saying, "Never, never, never give up." Since then, No Shave November has been a tradition that we hold close.
In 2006, Churchill had yet to taste victory in house competition. They found out that the taste of victory was that of a non-dairy substitute product. The King's College staff, faculty, and students watched in curiosity as future house legends Andrew Schatz and Ben Stubbs frolicked about the stage of the drama competition. Brian Nance provided music, and John Wagner played a tree. The freshmen built a human pyramid and plucked from the highest branch of the John Wagner tree a bottle of soy milk and drenched themselves forever in Churchill lore.
Tradition in the House of Churchill is hugely important, not only because of the unity it brings to members of the college, but also because it represents everlasting Churchillian spirit. Though a member may not go to this school anymore, he will always be a member of the House, and the House's spirit, ideals, and brotherhood will remain forever. When I decided to leave King's last summer, Dylan Tinney, the former president, text messaged me and said, "Though you may not be at the King's College, you will always be in the House of Churchill. Churchillian brotherhood never graduates, never transfers, and does not die."
When I first toured the King's College last spring, I was continuously told that the best house I could hope to become a part of was the House of Winston Churchill. They bragged of their excellence and brotherhood, and soon afterwards, I also learned of their 10th place standing in the house competition. But somehow this didn't manage to shake their pride and their unity one bit. And this perplexed me. I just couldn't comprehend how a house that was rewarded with nothing but failure could continue to compete. I did not see, if you kept putting in this effort and you did not win, how you could have this pride. So the core question was, why try? Winston Churchill answered this very same question himself by saying this: "It is our continuous effort, not our intelligence or our strength, but our continuous effort, which helps us to achieve our true potential." You see, there's houses at the King's College that are known for their intelligence. There's houses that win the same competition year after year. And admittedly, the House of Churchill is not one of those houses. But what we do pride ourselves on is this continuous effort, this sheer will of this band of brothers, which has helped us rise from our 10th place standing last year to a continuous first place standing for all of this year. "When going through hell," said Churchill, "when going through hell, keep going." See, it's been a difficult year for us freshmen. We were physically exhausted after the great race, mentally so after a semi-insane Grant DeArmond coached us through a film competition. Whilst I might add, we did watch Ray Davison prance around in a dress even during practices. Next came the film competition, where we sacrificed our sweet sleep to get up early and come into the Empire State Building at 4 a.m. and record a movie which Brandon Trotter would spend the next 12 hours editing and refining in the Media Lab. This film would only receive 3rd place. Thank you. Yeah, whenever we walk through the hallway and we see our banner, first place. Whenever we receive a proud, warm, somewhat sensual hug from Papa Sweatic, every time we try to shake Jason Craig's hand and receive an awkward fist bump instead, it is this brotherhood. It's this brotherhood that lets us know that our continuous effort has paid off. It's this that lets us know that every drop of blood, toil, tears, and sweat was completely worth it.
As you may have noticed, we are somewhat of an eclectic bunch. As one member recently put it, Never should any man of Churchill ever be considered normal. Now, what Ray Davison meant, and what stands at the core of what many of our house consider the true identity of Churchill, is that the men of Churchill are defiantly different in profound ways. When actualizing our mission to become a band of brothers who strive to be virtuous statesmen, dedicated to serving God and others, we must exceed the standard set for men of our age and our experience. Now, as the president of the House of Churchill, I know the vision that Noah Clarke set in 2006, and I know that I am not alone. Great men such as Nick Swedick, Andrew Schatz, John Wagner, John Hunshide, Ben Stubbs, Stephen Toll, Dylan Tinney, and Stephen Wesley have come before me, and it is my great privilege to pass this on to the next generation of Churchillians. Men, as we strive to implement values of brotherhood, courage, servanthood, and excellence, we must do so in our everyday lives through our interactions with our families, our communities, our student body, and our city. While this may seem abstraction, to bring it into a simple phrase, we are a house that forges godly men built for others. You will interact with others during your life, and you will have an influence on them for the better. And while our time here in the Empire State Building, well, at least in New York City, may not be perfect, we have formed a continuous, obligated community that will last for much more than 4 years. And while our illustrious history may not be written at this point, it is a history that Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill himself would be truly proud. Hoorah! Hoorah!